I was watching BBC News at 10 last night and came across quite a disturbing report on Gaza by one Lucy Williamson. It was disturbing less because of what she said in her report and more because what she chose not to say, as this would have been a further indictment of the Israel's rogue regime. Lucy Williamson's report started with these lines: "Nothing could save Al Awda Hospital. Its doctors told to leave. Its ambulances blocked by the ruined road. The last hospital of northern Gaza is the latest casualty of the war."
Lucy Williamson sent this report from Jerusalem.
Nothing could save Al Awda Hospital today. Its doctors told to leave. Its dwindling supplies stuffed into bags. Its ambulances blocked by the ruined road. The last hospital in northern Gaza, now the latest casualty of the war.
This woman, Lucy Williamson, didn't tell you from whom this hospital could not be saved and who had told doctors to leave, what had caused the Gaza roads to be ruined, and how is it a war when only one genocidal regime has been pounding most lethal bombs targeting hospitals, schools, and other civilian infrastructure. This would have forced her to name Israel, which she refused to do. Let's look at more evidence of her questionable journalistic endeavors in her report. In fact, she only mentions Israel on 3 occasions. First, at 1 minute and 20 seconds into her report to say how she has sought reactions from the Israeli army, but they had not commented. She then mentions Israel the second time at 1 minute and 58 seconds into her report to repeat Israeli claim that it was targeting terrorist infrastructure. And then the third and the final time she mentions Israel is just before ending her report to say Israel is making North Gaza unlivable. She then goes on to acknowledge that the hospital has been under siege, but doesn't say by whom. He also says that the hospital was reportedly hit 28 times, but again doesn't mention if this was by meteor shower, lightning, thunderstorm, or Israel.
This footage sent to us by its director, Mohammed Salah, seen here in the green shirt. Patients and staff were taken south overnight to Shifa Hospital in Gaza City. Relative safety for survivors of a 2-week siege. Their hospital reportedly hit 28 times in this war, greeted with hugs from colleagues who understand.
She then mentions about a fresh airstrike causing carnage in the area, but who was launching these strikes, she conveniently forgets to mention.
We put his claims to Israel's army, but they haven't yet provided a response. Hours after they arrived in Gaza City, another airstrike brought new casualties flooding in.
She ends her amazing piece of BBC journalism by calling the forced displacement of Palestinians from North Gaza as evacuation. She knows that forced displacement is a war crime, but evacuation isn't. So you get the impression that Israel is indulging in rescue operations by evacuating poor Palestinians killed and maimed by unseen forces. That's why I say choice of words is absolutely key to protect Israeli war crime. And the BBC, an organization that you and I fund with our hard-earned money called license fee, has been doing a fantastic job towards that.
Israel says it continues to target terrorist infrastructure across the Gaza Strip. But with little healthcare or aid in the north, there are fears that Israel is making northern Gaza unlivable to push its population into the south. That piece by piece, Gaza will be evacuated, just as its hospitals were. Lucy Williamson, BBC News, Jerusalem.
So who is Lucy Williamson? Let me refresh your memory to put her reporting in the Gaza conflict in proper context. She was the BBC representative who infamously wrote this headline when Israeli tanks shelled more than 335 rounds of bullets to slaughter a 6-year-old angel called Hind Rajab. Lucy Williamson's headline was Hind Rajab 6 found dead in Gaza days after phone calls for help. The BBC has still not changed that headline. And this controversial reporting continues to live live on BBC News Online. Another attempt to dehumanize Palestinians. Imagine if this had happened to an Israeli child. Lucy was also the BBC representative that the Israeli occupation forces had selected to embed with them to Al Shifa Hospital very early into this conflict, to amplify the claim that Hamas members were using the hospital as a command center. Watch this clip to see how Lucy Williamson simply repeats Israeli lies and presents them as facts without adding any caveat.
This area, we're passing through an area where the ground operation first began weeks ago now, and since then the Israeli army has fought its way methodically towards Gaza City, towards the gates of the Shifa hospital, and that's where they're taking us now. They've been looking for evidence of this being a Hamas base, a place where Hamas planned attacks. And they say that among the things they've uncovered are more than a dozen Kalashnikovs, grenades, personal protective equipment, some of it with the Hamas military brigade insignia on it. You can see some of them here hidden under these bags of medical supplies. We're also told that there have been laptops found with some information about the hostages. They also found some recent files that suggest this may have been a Hamas operating base as recently as a few days ago.
There are countless other examples, but I'll add one more. She was the BBC representative whose reporting gave rise to fake claims in December 2023 that Hamas had raped Israelis during their 7th of October attacks. See the mischief in this headline. It said Israel, Gaza, Hamas raped and mutilated women on 7th of October. BBC hears. It said BBC hears, not BBC authenticates. And yet it chose to start the headline without any caveat or attribution, such as Israeli claim. All she was doing through this online piece was sharing the claims made by some Israelis. Why is it difficult to understand for the BBC that in a conflict like Israel and Palestine, parties will want to use media platforms to push their propaganda? Why must the BBC become a willing partner unless it has an agenda? She started her report, as you can see in this clip, by claiming to have seen the evidence of rape. But we, the audience and license fee payer, never learned what that evidence was. As we learned from two high-profile UN experts only a few weeks later, who said that claims of sexual violence was simply not true. Watch this clip of Pramila Patten, Special Representative of the UN Secretary General on Sexual Violence in Conflict, which this channel was first to broadcast.
My other questions, and forgive me, because I feel like with this report, I'm now a little bit more confused than I was before I read it. I noticed on social media that you had met with a Zaka volunteer. His name's Yossi Landau. Yossi Landau has been in the media. He was in the New York Times investigation that has been through the shredder at this point as far as figuring out what's accurate and what's not. In this report, you mentioned that there was a media report about a woman who was pregnant, her stomach was ripped open, the baby was ripped out, it was stabbed, the umbilical cord. That story came from Yossi Landau, who on social media you can see on their Zaka Instagram page you met with. So when I see that, and then I read this report, I'm lost. To what extent do I believe this? This isn't an investigation, but it kind of is. So then how is this any different than the New York Times story if you're just collecting evidence? I'm just really trying to, if I'm not being clear, please let me know and I'll try to.
Well, you are indeed not very clear, but
What wasn't clear?
well, I don't get the gist of the question. I think my report is pretty straightforward. We explained that we went to 4 different locations based on.
But my question is, you met with Yossi Landau.
Yes,
He's the creator of that.
I will. I know. I get your question. First of all, because you're talking about social media. Yes, indeed, you've seen the photo, and it was at Kibbutz Berry. It was at Kibbutz Berry, and if you read the section of the report, starting with paragraph. Paragraph 62, we say what we have been able to verify, and that we went there because of the attention paid to Kibbutz Berry and sexual violence. And I have mentioned in my report at least 2 allegations previously reported that we found to be unfounded, and we explain that it's due to either new superseding information or inconsistency in the information gathered, including first responder testimonies, photographic evidence, and other information. And I give two examples. Yes, we found it to be unfounded.
Can I just follow up really quick, please? The reason I'm asking this is because there are real consequences to this report. I mean, I know you keep saying the Commission of Inquiry, they need to go and do their investigation, which I believe they're doing, but the Israeli ambassador to the UN has said publicly, we're not going to cooperate with that. So that recommendation is already DOA, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. Are you at all concerned that this report, sexual violence against women, this is being weaponized as a way to continue violence in Gaza? That's why I'm asking these questions, because this is an important report.
Well, I understand that the invitation to me came as a result of pressure from civil society organizations in Israel and academia. And I do hope, and I can tell you that when I was there, no one told me it's too little, too late, or you came too late. On the contrary, many interlocutors told me, we are still mourning. Why are you here? And why this narrow focus on sexual violence? And everywhere, throughout the report, you see that I mentioned that could not be verified, and verification would entail a proper investigation.
The BBC was where I polished my journalistic skills by learning about impartiality and objectivity. This woman appears to have been with the BBC for a very long time. It's therefore baffling to me as to why her reporting has only deteriorated during this genocide. Does she not know that she is answerable to every single British license fee payer? Why should the BBC be allowed to keep such individuals who simply cannot report with objectivity, even in the face of the biggest Holocaust since the World War II? As I said before, the BBC and people like Lucy Williamson can do whatever they want, but not with our money. I will wait for the BBC to respond to questions raised in this video, because I know BBC editors and presenters do watch this channel. But until then, I will continue to expose this organization for its lapses, deliberate or otherwise. Thank you very much for your support of this platform and our journalism on buymeacoffee.com and Patreon. If you too think that our journalism is worth supporting, then you too should consider becoming part of it. Details are there in the description of this video. In the meantime, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.